evening. Good evening. Welcome to Detroit in Black and White, our Friday evenings edition. Who we have on deck tonight is Alan Lango, Washington Post, Deadline Detroit. We call him Eastside Alan. What's up, Eastside Alan?
Eastside representing.
That's right. We also have our friend, the cooler head, the guy from Trenton, former chief of police for the Trenton Police Department, Jim Nardoni. Good evening, Jim.
Good evening. It's Friday night, right? Is it Friday here?
Friday night. Yep. Just got paid. Party hunting. Okay, you guys also have Vanessa Moss, lawyer, campaign manager sometimes, campaign consultant sometimes.
Campaigner.
Sometimes a campaigner, right? And sometimes a stuff starter. Good evening. So listen, what we're going to do is we're going to say good evening to Dwayla, Kenneth Reed, Queen B. Hey, y'all. Hey, Janet Overall. You know what we want you to do. We want you to like, subscribe, and share. We want you guys to tell everybody about the greatest show on these YouTube streets. You can catch us on all social media platforms. We want you to tell everybody about Detroit in Black and White. You can catch us again tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock in the morning. All righty. Okay.
Can I stop you for just a second and say what I really like about our show is the last few weeks, we've become moderators, and I love that.
I know,
There's
right?
a lot of good, not just debate between us and our colleagues. It's between everybody, and I think that's really exciting. And I don't mind being a moderator. I think that's really, really good.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So we're going to get going. I'm going to let Alan wasn't here the other day, so we're going to let him go first.
All right. I was going to say on Monday, I still occasionally get calls from the Washington Post to help them out. And I went up to Grand Blanc on Monday, the day after the shooting at the Mormon church, and did some reporting of that. You know, one of the interesting, I went down the road, not very far down the road, to O'Reilly Auto Parts, and I was interviewing some of the workers there. There were 2 workers there I interviewed. And, you know, I think the interesting thing is the narrative in small town America has changed. It used to be, oh my gosh, we never thought it could happen here, to where people were saying it can happen anywhere. We know that. And that's kind of a sad commentary on how the narrative has shifted. You know, just tragedies. I mean, I went for Yom Kippur, which was on Thursday, to the downtown Detroit synagogue, and they have 2 security guards there with Glocks. One's at the door, one's outside the parking lot, and it really is sort of a testament to our times of what's going on everywhere. I know churches and synagogues and mosques, we're all concerned about security now, where that used to be a safe place where you could get away from the crazy world, where you could have a little reprieve for a couple hours and get some whatever spiritual nourishment or whatever, and feel safe. And now we have all these places that have security, beefed up security, and guards with guns, and some of the bigger places have, you know, plain clothes security people or off-duty cops who carry guns and stuff like that. It's just really a sad commentary. So.
Yeah. Have you guys where you go to synagogue, have you guys just started having security? Because
no, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been quite some time for where I go and worship as well.
But it's increased over time. You know, there were some grants to beef up security. I would say it's been going on probably for 10 years, security at least, but I can see even more security now than before.
Yeah. Jim, what did you want to talk about?
I want to talk about everybody. I want to talk about Edward. Good evening, Edward. Eric Brown, our good friend and colleague. Kenneth Reed, energy level is a bit off. Well, you need to recharge that battery, Kenneth, and come back full strength. That's what we're working on. Hi, Karen. Wow. Greetings to Mary. Janet.
You might have been talking about us, our energy levels.
Oh,
thank you, Janet.
There earlier that he was sleepy, so I wanted tell him
Yeah.
wait until 9:30. You can go to sleep, Kenneth.
Yeah, and G Money Hollywood, greetings to you. He's a little sleepy. Karen's good evening, and we talked about Janet. Hello, Janet. Queen Bee, our old friend Queen Bee, who's working hard on her education.
Right.
Hello, everybody. So Alan made a point about security. So the question I have to ask is that positive? So I'm just going to throw that out to the two of you and to our colleagues, right? I've been going to the Detroit Lions for 12, 13 years, and they are almost over the top with security at Ford Field. And I give them credit. There are times that they're a little lax. Airport security is tremendous. We have not had a hijacked plane or an incident behind. We had, I think it was in Los Angeles, maybe in Atlanta, a guy got a gun out of his luggage, his checked luggage after, and killed 2 or 3 people down there. Or was that Fort Lauderdale? Maybe somewhere in the southeast, maybe Florida. So I guess the question is it positive? There's a church here about a half a mile from here. I have a friend, a guy that I used to know, I guess. I don't know if he's a friend, but they have this church. I call it the church of what's happening now, today's church of, the mega church. And they have an arsenal in there. And I'm a little uncomfortable with that because, if you have 30, 40, 50 guns, but I guess my question to the both of you and to our viewers is, why churches? Why not schools? Why are we not at a point where it's important to protect our young people? And I know it seems like it's bad taste to have our kids walking around with guns, with people with guns. But, you're not afraid to put your kid on a plane to go to Disneyland from Detroit Metro Airport. Well, you don't care if you have to walk by security and firearms to get them on an airplane.
Right.
Maybe it's a good thing is what I'm asking. Or is it?
I think in some communities, we do have security in schools, especially in urban school districts. However, we had a few years ago, Oxford, they didn't have security. They don't feel like they need security.
Well, they did. They didn't employ. They didn't contact the people that they needed to contact.
After Columbine, you would think every school, regardless, white, black, suburban, urban, whatever, rural, you'll have. I mean, Detroit schools have had metal detectors. I used to go to the Washington D.C. I used to help in one high school. All the high schools had it, but I would go to Blue High School, which is off of MLK in Southeast Washington, to help with their school newspaper. You had to go through a metal detector, and it's just, I remember long ago. Back in it was probably 97, 98, I was in Washington, worked for the Washington Post, and it was the opening of, at that time, called the MCI Center, where the Wizards were going to play, and Bill Clinton was coming to the game, so we had the whole, it was the opening day of the stadium, so I was in the back of the stadium, and they had metal detectors, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to take forever to, and they actually towed away a Coca-Cola truck where Bill Clinton was going to be coming in the limo. They towed away everything on the street that was there. But they had metal detectors. I thought, this is going to take forever for people to go in. Now we go to Comerica Park. Anywhere, you go to any arena and you've got to go through metal detectors, and it's just the way of life. And I'm surprised we still don't have metal detectors in malls, movie theaters, and so the Americana Theater on Greenfield, after there were some shootings there, they used to have a metal detector.
Right. It depends where you go. And I will say that you talk about metal detectors. I talked about this last summer. They have them on the riverfront.
Right. Riverwalk, right.
Yeah. And they also have them, they call it Greek Town, but Greek Town is only like a block as far as I'm concerned. They have metal detectors there. Is it a good thing? I think it's listen, I feel safer when there's a metal detector. Safer when I go to church. When you're talking about going to church, and there's an important part. And not only are you worshiping the Lord, but hey, that collection plate is going around. You want to make sure that that money is protected. Okay, so yeah, because you have people who see that. Oh my gosh, it's a whole lot of people here. A lot of people put money in that doggone basket. Heck yeah, you better. Yeah, we call it Greek block. That's exactly what I call it, Greek block.
Where Adolf and I went to high school, Park High, we had police officers, plain clothes, in the cafeteria at lunchtime. I don't think they carried guns, but they usually had 2 or 3 police, and then we had hall monitors and all that stuff. So
Well,
we can. I mean, we can talk about school resource officers. Eric's making a point. Marlon says God's on guard at church. Thank you. But I wanted to ask Alan a question, if I could, any of our viewers that have been to Israel. How old were you the first time you went to Israel, Alan?
I was old. I was 38 years old.
Okay. So I was going to ask you to talk to people, but even then security was different in Israel than it was in the States, or was it not?
Still, no. It's always, Israel's always, you go to a mall, you go to the train station, definitely there. I mean, the airport has layers and layers. You walk in the airport and you get interviewed by somebody who will ask you at least a few questions like, where are you going? Is anyone giving you anything? The first time way back in 2010, I went and they were like, do you speak Hebrew? Do you belong to a synagogue? Who do you know here? Why were you here? And then you go through another little layer. You go through levels of security there. And then finally, here, at least in Metro Airport or something, after you go through security, you can buy a big bottle of water. So the last time I was in Israel, which was 2022, once I passed security, I bought these expensive bottles of water, and then you had to go through one more right at the gate, go through another, and they wouldn't let me take the water on. So they have levels and levels, but everywhere. That's why I say I'm surprised here at malls, movie theaters. I know an ATF agent who's now retired. He would go to a movie theater and he said he always had his gun out and sitting next to him on his seat.
So tell us about the way people react in Israel to security compared to the United States, and how it evolved there.
I think in the same way, that we now accept, I mean, it used to be you could go to the gate at the airport. You could meet your family or whatever getting off at the gate. Now it's all these levels. And, it's funny. I was talking today. There are different airports that have different rules about guns. You can, at Metro Airport, the last I checked, because I did a story for ABC News several years ago, in Detroit, it was you could conceal carry up until the security points. You could walk around the airport and conceal. Airports like Atlanta and in Texas and Dallas and Houston, you could open carry. And part of the story was a guy in Atlanta dropped off his daughter, and he was walking around the airport with an assault rifle. And people were freaking out, and they were calling police and saying there's a guy. And they went up to him and he was videotaping. He says, I have my rights. You're violating my rights by questioning me and stuff like that. But how do we let that happen? Should we let everyone walk around the airport until they start shooting? And then
I have a story. We're going to cut to break in a minute, but you talk about Israel. Right before COVID, I went to Egypt for 10 days.
Oh, wow.
And listen, security everywhere. Went to the mall. Cops came, I should say the security with armed with those long guns, assault rifles, as far as I'm concerned, because they went all the way down to their knees. Mm-hmm. Dogs, they had the dogs surrounded the vehicle. They sniffed the vehicle, lift the trunks, all of that. And then they gave you permission to go into the mall. It was the same with me going to the museums. So it happens all around. It is happening all around the world. This is nothing new.
I had when I was this last time in 2022, I was going to the airport, coming back home. I took what's called the Sharut. It's a group cab, probably like 10 people. They pulled us over before we got to the airport and boarded, and we're checking people's passports and stuff like that. I mean, it's security. I mean, at different levels. I mean, I feel like we will push it without security as long as we can, because we don't like to go to a movie theater, have to go through metal detectors. We don't want to go to the mall and stand in line and go through the metal detector and take everything out of our pockets. And
Listen, I think I'm okay with it. When we come back, we're getting ready to go on the break, but we're going to talk about security or the non-existence of security at universities. I teach on Wednesdays. I don't go through security. We'll go back. We'll come back after commercial. We'll talk about that. We'll talk to
address our friends' comments.
Absolutely.
Hello, True Sensation. My heroes out there tonight.
We're going to shoot the commercial.
Homeownership opportunities are rising in the city of Detroit, and there's a house out there that's right for you and your family. You don't even have to worry about credit or getting a loan. You can win a house for as little as $1,000 and pay for the renovation cost as you go. It all starts at buildingdetroit.org and the Detroit Land Bank Authority. Our auction and Own It Now programs offer a variety of houses and neighborhoods all over the city of Detroit. These homes are in desperate need of repair and new ownership. You can begin by going to our interactive map and detailed property listings to find the right fit for you. It won't be easy, and renovation costs are not cheap, but our compliance team is there every step of the way. We will help you track your progress and connect you with local discounts to save you more money. We have already sold more than 15,000 homes in the city of Detroit, and our inventory is shrinking fast, so you don't want to miss out on this wonderful opportunity. Start your home buying journey today by visiting buildingdetroit.org. Homeowners.
all right.
Oh, we're back, Detroit in black and white. So we want to go to some of our co-hosts, and then we talk about security. We could talk about security at universities, and I want to talk to you guys about what happened today with Sean Diddy Combs.
Please address MR 1213 and
Mr. Mr. 123. He said, "I enjoy you guys. However, I would curious to know had Adolph been silenced. No, he hasn't been silenced. He'll be back. He'll be back sooner than what you think.
He's taking a little leave, but he'll be back.
Absolutely. And actually, look, I'm going to take a little.
Look, Adolph's the show. He's the star of the show. We know that. We're the B team, but we're we anxiously.
He's coming back. He's coming back. MR 1213. So all things are good.
Yeah, Ms. Suzuki. They scan your IDs at Motor City and MGM casinos. Definitely a new policy. Tamara Kimmon says, I fear Israel has reignited terrorism on planes because of their genocide in Gaza. Ms. Sheila says, thanks, Ms. Vanessa, for educating the community. Gentlemen, thanks for all y'all contribution to society. Thank you so much for watching us. Tamiko Rainey says, good evening. Ms. Suzuki says they remember when heavy security in Italian airports in the 90s. Terry McCrimmon said metal detectors are okay, but if you have people that know how to use a high-power rifle like the young guy that shot Kirk, it won't prevent people from killing someone if they really want to carry out the killing. I don't disagree. Karen Winston, good evening. She says she went to Haverford Hospital yesterday and they had 3 security guards at the main entrance. Alan, G Money Hollywood says, Alan, DPS schools and most urban schools has had metal detectors since the 80s. The systems have made urban kids feel like prisoners for over 40 years.
I want to say something about that. I did a story at the Detroit News, I think it was 94, about Best Friends, the drug gang. The 4 brothers who started it, and I traced their footsteps, and I went to Kettering High School, where one or two of the brothers went to school for a little bit, and the security guards were carrying nightsticks. They had them and they weren't short nightsticks; they were like baseball clubs, and I was just sort of like, wow, it was kind of eye-opening for me to see that big of nightsticks walking around. It's kind of intimidating, I would think, but
yeah. So who was that? Suzuki says that a suburban superintendent stated that he doesn't want his schools to feel like prisons. Um, says God's on guard at church. I don't know what that means. Eric says most school districts have resource officers in their schools supplied by the local police department. Detroit is the only school district that I know of that has their own public school police department.
And there's more out there, but school resource officers, their role is a little different than providing security for the school. And we can get into that some other time. Go ahead.
Kenneth says Bethel AME on East Warren across the street from Plymouth Congregational has armed security as well.
Can I make a comment?
Yep.
And I want to be general and not specific, but there's somebody that's tuned in tonight. That's such an extraordinary human being. And the reason I bring this up is sometimes there's people that change your life, that do things for you, and they don't have to, right? Mm-hmm. They do things to help other human beings. And I'm so grateful for one of our family members that's out there tonight. And I don't want to be specific, but I just want to say thank you. We could not have done it without you. And you're a great friend of this show, and you're a great friend to all of us. And I'm grateful for that friendship. Thank you.
Thank you. And you know what? I'm going to echo in on that. Thank you. I meant to say something to you earlier, Jim. Yes, thank you so much for all that you do, all that you've done. And we thank you for supporting us. Now, we thank you for supporting us. We also want to say that we thank all of you guys for participating and watching Detroit Black and White. To tune in on Wednesday and Fridays and Saturdays to take an hour out your day to listen to us and comment. That's a big deal. That's a big deal, and we are grateful for that. So I want to pick up and talk about. We're talking about security. I teach at University of Detroit Mercy. The main undergraduate school as well as graduate school, Livernois. There's no security. I mean, when I drive in, there's a security guard at the guard shack, right? And I drive through and I go ahead and park and I walk in the building and I walk in any building on that campus. So, if some person decides that they want to go in there and do something, they very well can. I wonder why they don't have security. It probably costs too much money, maybe, but they don't have security. They have, like Wayne State, they have their own police department, but they're not at every building.
They have a great police department, but you know what? If you walk through campus, which I do fairly often because I work at Tech Town sometimes or whatever, they have police cars sitting out on campus throughout, and Wayne State has one of the better police departments. In fact, if you live in the Wayne State area, you're wiser if you want immediate response to call the Wayne State Police rather than the Detroit Police. So,
yeah. Can we talk about Tamari's comment? Dr. Francis Cress Wesling reminded us in American culture, the gun is said to be the great equalizer because Black people have outnumbered whites. I'm not sure exactly what the perspective is, Tamari, but we've talked about that. We've talked about Dorian, Dr. Cornel West in his position. We talked about the Black Panthers in California when they decided, when they were trying to protect the neighborhoods, when Black people had guns and they were open carrying guns, and Ronald Reagan, the governor of California at the time, and the Democrats surely acted together to stop Black people from exercising their rights. So we know where you're coming from. There was a story in one of the newspapers here, Detroit Will Breathe, talking. I think it was Detroit Will Breathe, talking about that I read that I thought was fascinating. You can agree or disagree. I'm not saying that I agree with everything that was said in the comments, but that the racism associated with firearms in the hands of Black people and how the rest of the world reacts, the rest of the country reacts when Black people exercise their constitutional rights. And it's a deep discussion, but it's obvious.
Well, it's very obvious. And let me say this. I think it's also interesting when we talk about these mass shootings, the majority of these mass shootings are carried out by people that do not look like me.
Correct.
Don't look like this lipstick I have
on. White people?
Exactly. Exactly.
You know what? It's funny. SNL did a skit. It was, funny but true. They did a skit and they had like black contestants and white contestants, or they were posing as anchors, and it was a skit. And they would have little news stories flash, like of a massacre or a shooting here or there, and they were guessing black or white. And I think we have come to a point in our society where when we hear a shooting at a school or a shooting at a party or whatever, people start to immediately wonder, is that a black person or a white person? And I think that's
irrelevant.
Yeah, it's irrelevant, but it's part of our makeup, our fabric of society, that we think like white people usually go crazy in workplaces and schools. It's seldom.
Let's keep it a buck. I know when I talk to my friends, not you guys, not the ones that's a different shade than I am, but,
not whitey.
Wait, right. But when things like that happen, we say, well, was he black? Was she black or white? Let's keep it a buck. That is always that is always,
I don't think about life like that. I want to talk about
human nature.
We do. I want to talk. That's a reality.
Okay? Interestingly enough, our dear friend from north of the border, from Ireland via Canada via Ireland, said something about. Well, he said a couple of things. One thing he said, unilateral disarmament. Okay. Well, let me ask you a question. Let's ask our viewers this question. That sounds like an oversimplification. I saw a T-shirt. I was in South Dakota last week, as you guys know. And I saw a T-shirt, and it had about 3 or 4 indigenous people on it. And it said, "We're from the government." Something to the effect of, "Give us your guns. We'll never hurt you." So when you talk about some of the biggest unilateral disarmament in the west of the United States, when we took weapons, first we took weapons from the indigenous people, and then we killed them. You don't like my music? So tell me how universal disarmament helps those that can't protect themselves. It sounds like oversimplification. I get your point, but you know who has universal disarmament? Places like North Korea, where people have no rights. So I understand the challenges. But if you look at, there's 400 million guns, and I'll try and be brief. So that means every year, 399,900,085 guns, if it was one-on-one, are not involved in a murder. So start doing the statistics and tell me how universal disarmament saves our country.
So
Tamari's trying to say, but Alan, most of the mass shootings are carried out by white males. That's what we were just saying. Yep. I mean, it is, but there's other, there'll be mass shootings at a club or something, and it'll be a black person or whatever. And I'm not a premeditated, like we saw down in Orlando, where some terrorist, shot up the place, but sometimes there's somebody beefing or whatever. But it does. I mean, the sad part is, I think what it tells us is that we, as Americans, have a problem. As blacks and whites have a problem. It's just, different incidents and different circumstances, but we've got a violence problem. And people say, there's always that argument, no, it's not the guns. Guns don't kill, people do. It's mental illness. Well, how come we're not doing anything about either one?
But one murder is too many murders, right? And Canada is no excuse. Canada has the population of California. We have 341,125,000 people in this country. 14,000 or 17,000 dying by homicide is way too many. It's way too many. But guess what? Go ahead and do a little Google. I always say it's Dr. Cornel West who gets it right. And he says, you know what they kill people with in Canada? Everything.
But you know what? The guy in Grand Blanc had an assault weapon, and we used to have a ban on assault weapons. You can say we're never going to get rid of all of them, but we're going to make it a little harder for guys like that guy in Grand Blanc. He's not going down into the streets. I mean, if he really, really wants, he can find a way. But we need to reduce the population of guns. And
Thank you. You don't like my music.
Right. We're getting ready to go to a break, but before we go to break, I want to give our shout out to Plotkin. They said community shows are even more important now with the networks failing us. Thank you so much for watching us, Sanford. We're going to go on a break, and then we're going to come back. Detroit Black and White.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in a home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
We're back, Detroit Black and White, our Friday night's edition. If you're watching, like, subscribe, and share. Tell all your friends about what the greatest show on these YouTube streets. Also, join us tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. I'm going to give out a shout out to Stephanie Jackson. She said, yeah, and she's making a point to the point that I made. She said, yeah, because she was shocked when the highway shooter was Black, but not anymore. Crime has been equalized. So it is I know, Jim, you said you don't have that conversation, but we do. As Black folks, when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, when there was an attempt on the current administrator's life, the question in my circle was it Black? And then I hate to say this, but it's the truth. When we found out it wasn't a Black person, it was like, thank God.
Well, what about the famous Sanford Plotkin?
It wasn't one of us, okay?
Look, every minority worries about, look, Madoff, Jewish, Harvey Weinstein, Jewish, Epstein, Jewish. We don't like it.
Sexual offenders?
We don't. I mean, look, people, minorities in particular don't like to be represented by those, high profile names. And, it's an embarrassment.
I'm not making excuses for any crime, right? we need to get back and talk about the individuals and why they're committing the crimes. You can trying to identify the 14 to 17,000 on average of homicides in this country, who's going to commit those crimes, is a lot bigger deal than trying to take 400 million guns away from the people that have them in their safe. It seems like you just can't do it. You can't do it. That's like trying to find a field mouse in 400 acres, right? It's not the solution. Going after the problem is the only way to solve any problem, and focusing on the whole country to punishing everybody for the fault of a few. I mean, I just struggle with that. I don't see the logic. You're not going to get there. You're not going to get the 400 million guns. You need to find the 14,000 of them that are committing murder.
The 400 million guns.
Yeah, I disagree at one point, at least like assault weapons or something like that. It's not going to be, tomorrow you say, okay, they're illegal, which they were illegal for.
They weren't really illegal. They were illegal. The new ones they couldn't sell them for a few years or whatever, and it didn't impact crime.
But what I'm saying is,
that's propaganda.
I think you can find that there is, you have to start at some point to depopulate the assault weapon population.
Thank you. You don't like my music. I appreciate that. That's the typical liberal answer. You have no solution. So you're going to blame the guy that's pointing out the problem without the solution. Find a solution.
You don't like
Find the solution. Your solution, punishing 300 million people for the sins of 14,000. Do that. Let them come into your house. If you like to go bowling, let them come take your bowling ball. Let them take
You know what the problem with fucking America is? People love their guns more. Yes.
That's liberal propaganda. It's dishonest saying stuff like that.
You know what? You're over talking me.
That's liberal propaganda.
You don't want to hear what I have to say.
No, go ahead. You said the exact thing that they say on The View.
All right, go ahead. Are you done, Jim?
Good.
You done?
You sound like the View.
Come on, Eastside Al. Come on.
Yeah,
Come give me some
say
East Side.
that people, when this country, look, when we had shootings in Connecticut at that elementary school, I thought that's going to be a tipping point where people have to say, we've got a gun problem. But you know what?
You don't have a gun.
Well, some people and too many people love their guns more than they love their children.
That's liberal garbage, Alan.
That's
Why
what
do you
Charlie
care?
Kirk-
Why do you care if I
Charlie
love
Kirk
guns?
said, look,
Why
that's
bother
the
you?
price we pay for the Second Amendment, collateral damage. People are going to die.
Is it 1/10 of 1% of the people that die from gun violence in this country? Is it 1/10 of 1/10 of 1%?
Well, I guess you agree with Charlie Kirk, collateral damage. So what?
I don't agree with it. If you listened to me 10 minutes ago, I didn't say that. I
Okay,
didn't say that.
So
did not.
listen, G Money Hollywood says Allen is not designed for America to provide a solution for gun violence. America was built on violence, and the media, national government, and investors depend on gun violence to thrive.
And money.
Why don't we just take cars away from people? Because why don't we just take cars away from people? Because 50,000 people every year die from car violence. There's 100,000 people that die from fentanyl every year in this country.
Okay, may I?
Die from
May I
gun
say
violence.
something? Oxycodone companies, the pharmaceuticals have been sued. The car companies have been sued for unsafe. But you know who can't get sued? The gun manufacturers. They're protected by
What do
all
they
the
do?
lobbyists. They can't be sued.
What do they
can't be
do?
sued they're
Tell me
selling
what
a
they did.
dangerous product that is
Jim,
killing, that
Look,
kills.
you're getting attacked by the liberals.
What do they do? They just sold a firearm to somebody that put it in their safe and they go hunting on Sunday.
You're getting attacked by the liberals.
Tobacco,
I
the cigarette companies. Look, the cigarette companies have been sued.
Why? Why do you sue a cigarette company? Because somebody wants to smoke a cigarette.
Listen,
Let them do what they want. Why would you
That's
sue
the
them?
problem.
Listen, if you listen to you and you don't like my music, the liberals, some people would think that the liberals are just as dangerous as the guns that you're talking about. Anyway, Miss Sheila, Miss Sheila brings up the point about how do you feel about a gun store being between two basically daycare centers. I think I told you guys to pay attention to what's going on in Southfield. That's a real big deal. And I told you guys about zoning and how zoning is important. We need to pay attention to it in the city of Detroit. But Sheila, in the vein of us talking about guns and gun violence, what is your take on that?
Thank you, Felicia. I want to. How about Mr. Stanford Plotkin? I think is he an attorney, Alan? Is that Mr. Plotkin?
Yes,
attorney?
Yeah, that's
okay, Mr. Plotkin. I'm glad you brought up drugs. All right. Drugs have been illegal in this country, from marijuana to cocaine to fentanyl to heroin. And you know what? Most of the families in this country, a good portion of the families, don't care about drug problems because they don't affect them. So I'm not saying we shouldn't care about drugs, but you know what? They've been illegal forever. We tried prohibition for alcohol, for everything. We've tried prohibition for. It will never work. There will always be guns. There will always be drugs. There will always be people that do illegal action.
Why?
Those are the people we need to focus on. Why are you focusing on everybody else?
Why, Jim? Why do you think it will always be? Because listen, America is built on what? The money.
We were shooting heroin in 1935 in this country. So when do we stop the use of heroin?
Okay.
We're not going to.
We're not going to.
Diddy hasn't been sentenced yet.
Answer my question, or Miss Sheila's question about the schools. I mean, about the daycare center and the guns.
I'm not in favor, but let me ask the two of you and our viewers this: can't you just go buy a handgun in any pawn shop in Michigan?
You can't.
You can't
order. You know what? Yeah, and
I don't know. I don't own a gun. I've been to one pawn shop, and that was recently, Ziedman's on Gratiot. I couldn't tell you whether they sell guns or not. It was my first time ever going into a pawn shop.
So like I said, I was in South Dakota last week. Do you think they're talking about gun violence in the little cities in South Dakota and in Montana and they're not? It's a big city problem generally. All right. Generally, and we need to.
Oxford's not a big city.
Well, it is a big city. It's part of the Detroit metro area. So My point is,
Blank's not a big city. Go ahead.
my point is, we are focusing. It's unacceptable, but it's a small amount of people committing a lot of violent acts. And until you go after those people, you're getting nowhere, and you'll never get anywhere. All right. I was a part of 2 drug units, right? You know where we were? We weren't out in West Bloomfield chasing the guys that were bringing the kilos of cocaine into Michigan. We were in Ecorse and River Rouge buying $20 rocks of cocaine, because that's who law enforcement goes after. They go after the little guy.
They go after the
always
low
been
hanging fruit. They go, as we say, the low hanging fruit.
It's always been that way.
When you're talking about that, Ms. Sheila said that she was at the Southwest City Council meeting, and they supported the revenue more than their children. But Jim, Terry says, what do you think of the Trump administration targeting the drug cartels using the military?
The drug cartels I'm sorry, say that
When
again.
they're off South America.
I think that's awful. I think that's an act of war, and we should not be going to war against other people. No, I did not. I've never tried crack. You don't like my music, but I've been around crack.
So
I want to tell, before I finish, and I'm going to stop. You don't like my music said, if they were, would you change your mind about guns? Well, let me tell you something. I did change my mind about guns. I grew up in a liberal household. My father grew up in Detroit. They hated guns. We weren't allowed to be around guns until I spent
what's liberal?
20 years in law enforcement. I learned that you can't stop it. So
Define
the bad guys.
Before we move to the next,
my father had a gun.
What does liberal mean, Jim? Because people use that word, and I'm not saying you are, but people use that word, and for some people, it's like a curse word. So what does liberal mean? So
Sonny Hostin, the Harvard educated, said this week, how can you be pro-life and own an AR-15? Are you out of your fucking mind? It has nothing to do with the next thing. Protecting your family? Do you want to be a victim? So you can't have a firearm in your home to protect your family if some criminal breaks in? What does that have to do with being pro-life or pro-choice?
I'll say something. My father carried a gun because he had some bars, and he carried a 38
to protect himself and his assets.
Yes, he did, and we were respectful. He kept it in the drawer, whatever. But I'm going to say there are so many loopholes in the gun laws. You can if I want to buy your gun, Jim, I can just buy your gun. I don't have to go through a check, through a background check.
That's absolutely, yeah. That used to be the way in Michigan. You could buy a gun from a private owner. You cannot do that today.
Has that changed? I know. And tell me also the gun shows. There were a lot of dopers always going to the gun shows everywhere, taking their cousins with them who didn't have records, buying what they call straw purchases, where they were buying the guns for, I'm sure they
That's
got
right. Because people are evil and they want to buy guns for their brother-in-law that can't get a gun. Absolutely right. I agree with that.
Okay, so people in the comments, and I want to ask you guys, because we only have 15 more minutes. I was supposed to be leaving in 15. I was supposed to leave right about now. Actually, let's take a break and then we'll come back.
Nearly 30,000 vacant lots all over the city of Detroit are for sale right now. That's right. Nearly 30,000 vacant lots are available now, starting at just $100. The lot next to your house or the lot down the street. Make it yours today in just a few simple clicks. Find out if it is available by visiting buildingdetroit.org. At the Detroit Land Bank Authority, side lots are just $100 and neighborhood lots sell for $250. You can apply and pay online today by visiting buildingdetroit.org. And if you don't see the lot you're looking for, call our offices. Our phone number is 313-974-6869. Again, that is 313-974-6869.
We're back, Detroit in Black and White, Friday night's edition. Please join us again tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Tell your friends all about Detroit in Black and White, the greatest show on these YouTube streets. And again, we thank all of you guys for watching. Mr. 1213 says, if a person asks to use my gun so he could kill someone and I give him the gun, would that make me an accessory to the crime? It
That,
depends on the prosecutor. Heck yeah, most of them would say yeah, but these days we don't know who's who, and what I mean by who's who, uh, whether or not justice will be
I've
I don't know. Absolutely.
we've been talking about this for 3 weeks. Has anybody heard me say that I wasn't for gun safety laws? Did I tell anybody that I wasn't for gun safety laws? When did I say that, Alan? I've never said it.
I didn't.
Did I ever say it? Did you ever hear me say that?
Did I accuse you of that?
No, but I'm just asking. Have you ever said I wasn't for gun safety?
Yeah, but that's open interpretation what gun safety.
I never said that. I never said that. I never said that. You go back and watch the last 5 shows. I never said I wasn't.
Okay.
If you can come up with a law that will change this world to change gun crimes committed by guns or any other weapon or any car, any kind of safety action, I probably would embrace it. But it's pie in the sky. It's the liberals. You don't care about kids. You want to save babies, but you want to kill them when they're fine. That's just garbage.
Tell me, in Connecticut, what's the name of the school where there was mass shooting of children, and
evil human being did that.
Yeah, it did.
A very evil person killed 2 people in Washington, D.C. because they were Jewish.
Easy access to a gun, and he killed. Is it mental illness? Anybody who does these mass shootings is mentally ill, but we don't do anything about mental illness either.
I'm sorry. I don't know. You're making this sweeping statement. Some people do it just because they feel like it. They're not ill. I just don't like people.
No, I'm sorry. You go into a school and you shoot up kids.
I don't agree with that sweeping statement.
I disagree with you.
Okay, that's fine.
People have some people may have a momentary moments of mental illness. Sandy Hook, thank you. But I'm sorry, you walk into Sandy Hook and you shoot all those children and you're mentally healthy. Show me one of these mass shooters who was mentally balanced. None.
But the Democratic.
Was that a defense?
I grew up in a Democrat.
Was that a defense?
Listen,
Alan, was that
I grew up in a.
We don't know, because if they went through the justice system, that might have been a defense. We don't know if it's true or not. But anyway, go ahead, Jim. I'm sorry.
I grew up in a Democratic household with the Kennedys and the gun control and this. We've been talking about it for 50 years, and the Democrats think overnight the next piece of paper that comes down the pike is going to change everything, and it's not going to happen.
You know what? The problem is, you know what? We talk about crime, fighting crime, and so we talk about, addressing poverty, addressing homes. So that doesn't happen in a snap of the finger. When we talk about dropping the gun population, it's not in 2 days. It could impact in 5 years, but we have to start somewhere. That's why public transportation, just as another analogy, in this city, Detroit, nobody wants to start a big project, so we never have good public transportation.
So I'm going to ask you this, and then because people have asked in the comments, Jim, you keep saying I grew up in a liberal household. My
union
of liberal may be different than yours, so I need for you to explain to us, what do you mean as liberal? Because I personally, there are people that I can point to and say, look, your views does not benefit me as a Black woman. It does not benefit my Black brothers and sisters. It is my estimation that a lot of these liberals that I don't know which ones you're talking about, some of these views are not something that we adopted, that we agree with. So
yeah, you probably would agree. I grew up in a household where my dad was a union activist for the Teamsters Union, who was believed in the union, all the things. When I say liberal, I'm talking about a 1970s Democrat who supported the Kennedys and the Clintons and the Carters. That's the system I was programmed into. All right. Just like we were all programmed into
a system. What happened, Jim? What happened?
I'll tell you what happened. 30 years in law enforcement and watching victims that can't protect themselves, women who are abused and beat up and have no way to protect themselves, and people that criminals always prey upon the weak.
Liberal and conservative. Am I pro, like, let's beat the shit out of people and let's murder people and stuff like that? That's where you're wrong. liberals don't want crime. Liberals want to be.
I didn't say they want a crime. I didn't say they want a crime. Did I say that?
So, but what is it? What's your point?
The victimization of this country when people can't protect themselves. If Vanessa is in her house and she can't protect herself, and she's a woman or a man that's weak or elderly, they have no means to protect themselves. That's who the criminals prey upon. And what you do is you promote that by saying, well, let's not let this person protect themselves. The weak always get pushed around by the bully. The gun is a bully. That's all that it is. You oversimplify it. Really get into the facts. The gun is a bully. The 14,000 people that were killed in 2023 by firearms in this country were bullied and terrorized. A lot of them were women. All right. They could not protect themselves. Nobody is here to protect them. That's why I'm frustrated.
So what are you going to say? What's the difference now? Vanessa, I'll ask you, you don't have to answer. Do you own a gun?
I don't know. I would answer. I do not own a gun, but I don't have a problem with anybody owning a gun. I've just never, my position is, in order for me to have a gun, I want to know how to properly use a gun. And I just have not taken the course or anything like that. I personally don't have a problem with it. One of our viewers, Stephanie Jackson, said, listen, I don't love my gun, but I like the fact, I love the fact that I can be protected.
How about that?
I personally don't have a problem with it. I will tell you this, my oldest son is a gun enthusiast, okay?
Has he killed it? I mean, is he walking around bars?
He's a gun enthusiast. So, you know,
Do you think he's a threat to the people of this country?
Absolutely, he is not.
Of course. So why are we focusing on people like that?
Himself and his
We're not
family.
focusing on people.
Of course you are.
No,
Of course you are. That's your solution.
We're saying that.
I've got to answer these two people. Somebody asked me about this lipstick that I have on. First of all, I'm going to a Parisian event, and so I got my whole Parisian look going on. No, this is not the lipstick that they used to wear back in the Soul Train days, Goofy Great. This is a color that is from The Lip Bar, which is a Black-owned company that was on Shark Tank, and they shot them down, and now they're making a whole lot of money.
I interviewed her.
Okay, it is black. I went right downtown to the store to put it on. It's matching my whole little, as we call it, my whole fit today. Before we go, I do want to get here. I want to get here today because everybody's been waiting for the sentence for Sean Combs. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because, Jim, you just talked about how you got tired of what changed. You got tired of seeing women who couldn't protect themselves getting beat up by these horrible, guys, etc. Do you think the sentence that he received today was fair?
I don't know enough about the case, but it is, it's tragic though. It's tragic all the way around. I don't know if I guess 5 years in prison is a long time, but really quickly, Jill Sheridan, my point is about liberalism, of growing up in a liberal household. I'm talking about traditional liberalism, right? Unions, workers' rights, healthcare, eliminate firearms. That's what I'm talking about. That's how I grew up. That's all I'm saying.
I'll weigh in on the P. Diddy thing. I think the allegations, had they all been proven, he would have gotten a lot more serious of a sentence. I think some of the more serious charges he was not convicted of. So the judges is sort of constrained by what he has before him. And so in this case, the more serious charges were tossed out and the less serious ones were that. So I think there's probably the sentence was fitting for what he was convicted of. Should he have been convicted of more serious crimes? I didn't follow the trial close enough, day by day to know that or not. But
well,
as a police chief that had two people assigned to ICE, ICE is a very talented. I don't know what's happened in the last 5 years, but you're wrong about ICE. I got to tell you that. Generally speaking, they're a pretty good organization. They're a pretty good organization. They built our firearms range. So anyway, ICE today might be different than ICE was 10 years ago, but ICE evolved from INS, Immigration and Naturalization Services. They are way bigger probably than they should be, but you can believe whatever you want to believe, and people are going to go down whatever path they're going to go down based on the information they get. But you need to look at ICE on a grander scale than just look at what's going on now. They're acting on behalf of the President of the United States. I'm not suggesting that I support a lot of things they're doing, but to label ICE as a bad organization, I take exception to it.
Vanessa, before we go, I'd love to play this little video. It's a 1 minute.
Right, President Trump is escalating his war against what he calls the last remaining segment of woke, accusing the Smithsonian of being out of control, where everything discussed is how horrible our country is, how bad slavery was.
Oh, are we hurting your little feelings, you bitch? Honestly, I don't think museums go far enough. If you don't leave an African American history museum weeping and wanting to give your closest black friends reparations, then they didn't do the museum right. You need those museums. Go study. Because when we close the museum, this is what happens.
And you cannot tie imperialism and racism and slavery to just one race, which is pretty much what every single exhibit does. But let's talk about the fact that when you
anti-slavery,
let's talk about the fact
slavery in America was.
Do you realize that only less than 2% of white Americans owned slaves?
Wait a minute, hang on. Isn't that the fitness bitch who lied about how I could get abs in 60 minutes?
I love that one.
Thank you, Mr. Plotkin. No, I did not see what happened in Chicago. But
no, maybe we could talk about that tomorrow. But that was interesting.
She's funny. She's funny.
Yeah.
No, look, the comedians are the strongest voice against what's happening right now. I mean, all these comedians are the voices that are strongest and resonating, I think. But
yep. So Sanford Plotkin says the guidelines for the acquitted conduct would have landed him double digits. Absolutely, you are correct, brother counsel. I followed the case. I personally felt like the judge split the baby. The prosecutors want him to get 11 years. They, of course, his attorneys want him to, set him free today. And I think he split the baby. So, people like that, this guy's had a history of criminality as far as I'm concerned. No convictions until, recently, but, hopefully he'll get the help that he needs and he'll be able to come out and be, a better citizen, but I think that whenever there's a judgment and neither side is happy about what happens, I think that is basically a fair outcome. His people thought he should get out immediately. The prosecutors want him to be sentenced to at least years. It looks like the judge decided to just split the baby. So Sanford talks about what ICE did in Chicago today. I'll look it up in the morning. Maybe we'll be able to discuss it tomorrow. Felicia says, thanks for that much needed laugh, Alan. Dewayla says it's a good show. And you know what? I have to agree. It's a good show because of people like you guys. Eric, you don't like my music. Jim, you really pissed him off today. Janet.
Yeah, I love him, but he and I, we have our little.
Janet overall, love you. Tamari Kimmett, she said laugh out loud. G Money Hollywood, Marlon Holt, Jill Sheridan, Miss Sheila in her capital letters, Mr. 1213. Did I say Felicia Dean? Mr. Duckett, Stephanie Jackson. You don't like my music, Terry McCrimmon, Kenneth Reed. I think Kenneth must have went on and went to sleep. I told him to stay up until at least 9:30. But listen, we want you guys to join us again tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock on these YouTube streets. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night. I'm going to have fun tonight. I'll talk to you later.